Chair and members of the board. In 2018, with the passage of Senate Bill 54, it requires the Probation Department and the Sheriff's Department to reaffirm our compliance with the law and also give you and the public statistical information as it relates to our interactions with the Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement facility. I'll start with the first slide and go really over the history about why we're here, starting with the passage of the Trust Act, AB 4 in 2014. It was essentially at that period of time, or prior to that period of time, we would have what we call ICE detainers that we found to be mostly administrative in nature and not being reviewed by a federal judge. And that is that we do not comply with those, and we do not hold people as a result of those type of administrative detainers. The Truth Act was then also passed in 2017, and it mandates that local jails and juvenile detention facilities provide written consent to inmates, informing them of their rights prior to an interview with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement personnel, and notify inmates when their release dates are provided to ICE. Moving forward to SB 54, that prohibits state and local law enforcement officials from using essentially any infrastructure, money, property, equipment, or personnel to investigate or detect or arrest persons for immigration enforcement purposes. Tracy.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Tracy Reese, Chief Probation Officer. Pursuant to SB 54, the Probation Department does not inquire into an individual's immigration status, detain a person based on a hold request from ICE, participate in 287G agreements or any program that deputizes police as immigration agents.
As far as the Sheriff's Department's interaction with ICE, the Sheriff's Department may allow ICE personnel to conduct investigations only if doing so would not violate any federal, state, or local laws. ICE primarily conducts immigration enforcement by identifying in-custody inmates using biometric fingerprints during the booking process. All inmates that are booked, fingerprints are taken, and that's national, state, and local in terms of being able to identify fugitives or individuals who are actually booked. Their fingerprints are directly connected to their identity. Lastly, federal, state, and local laws permit ICE to identify and detain undocumented individuals who pose a threat to public safety. SBSD responsibilities in relation to immigration. These are things the Sheriff's Department will not do. We will not enforce federal immigration laws or participate in immigration enforcement programs. Ask an inmate's immigration status for the purpose of immigration enforcement. Use ICE personnel as interpreters for the Sheriff's Department or related duties in the jails. As far as an inmate's housing classification and programming considerations, citizenship and immigration status are not considered in the following: housing, classification, access to educational or rehabilitative services, or earning good and work time credits. As it relates to ICE interviews, ICE may enter a Sheriff's Department facility to conduct investigations or interview inmates like any other law enforcement agency. Prior to an interview, an inmate must first be informed of the purpose of a voluntary interview, the right to decline the interview, and the right to have an attorney present during the interview. Inmates receive these rights in writing with consent to Immigration and Customs Enforcement's interview prior to. ICE access to San Bernardino County jails. ICE has access to the facility, again, like any other law enforcement agency. They have access to the intake area, the inmate interview rooms, secure intake parking area, and the bridge. ICE does not have a dedicated workspace in our jails. ICE holds and detainers. ICE can submit an immigration detainer, which is Form I-247D, requesting that we hold an inmate for 48 hours past their release date. Sheriff's Department staff will review the request in relation to the inmate's release date. The Sheriff's Department will not hold an inmate longer than their regularly scheduled release date based on the immigration detainer. The Sheriff's Department will notify an inmate of a hold or detainer request, its denial, and to provide 2 copies of the request to the inmates. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department utilizes the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Notification of Request form to notify the inmate. 2 copies of the forms are given to the inmate, and 1 is provided to their attorney or designee if requested. ICE notifications. The ICE request for notification, which is Form I-247N, requests San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department to notify ICE prior to releasing an inmate from custody. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department can provide release date information if the information is available to the public or the inmate meets the release information requirements. Booking photographs, work and home addresses are not provided. The inmate is notified whether San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department intends to comply with the request. 2 copies of the form are given to the inmate, and 1 is provided to their attorney or designee again if requested. As far as ICE transfers, San Bernardino County can transfer an inmate to immigration authorities when authorized by a judicial warrant, judicial probable cause determination from a federal judge, or thirdly, in accordance with the Government Code Section 7282.5, listing of qualifying crimes or priors. ICE arrests and transfers continued. ICE personnel are solely responsible for making immigration-related arrests at San Bernardino County facilities. There is no designated area to arrest inmates scheduled for release. ICE arrests must occur in the areas accessible to the public, as per Senate Bill 54. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department will not directly transfer an inmate to ICE personnel unless there is an arrest warrant signed by a federal judge or magistrate or the inmate meets the criteria. The statistical considerations, and I think these are really of note, annually we book approximately 80,000 people a year. You can see the effects of COVID in our booking rates. We are down after this past year to 56,787. Our releases are 56,814. Our booking of foreign-born individuals is 5,427. ICE requests or detainers or holds to date is 686. Our notifications to ICE based on the requirements of law have been 273 and significantly lower than we've ever seen in the past. Our ICE arrests were only 2 for the past year. I have an opportunity to visit the public a lot, and I think as it relates to the Sheriff's Department where some of the confusion exists with the public is we have an ICE facility in Adelanto, and the Sheriff's Department's had to respond a number of times and related to civil unrest and protests that occur there. And also we have a contract with the city of Adelanto to make sure that we investigate any victims inside the ICE housing facility if they have any crimes that are committed against them while they're there. I want to reassure all of the public that this county is all about victims, not suspects, and we do not enforce immigration federal policies.